This is the Water Quality Association podcast, promoting the betterment of water quality around the world. And hello, I'm your host, Wes Bleed.
Emerging contaminants are health effects. It's a game changer. We have to understand more than anyone else that they come in different shapes, sizes, they have different personalities, different strengths, different weaknesses, and they have levels of tenacity.
That's Richard Mest, past WQA and WQRF president, talking about water treatment for emerging contaminants. And welcome to the weekly podcast from the Water Quality Association, the leading voice of the residential, commercial, and industrial water treatment community. You can find us at WQA.org. If you're joining us for the first time, we're so glad you're here. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you never miss a show. That's the magic of podcasting. And be sure to share the podcast with someone on your team. We also feature our podcasts on YouTube. Go to youtube.com/@WaterQualityAssociationVideos. Emerging contaminants, a critical focus of the Water Quality Association and the Water Quality Research Foundation. And in this episode, we feature a segment from a recent WQRF webinar about emerging contaminants, chemicals or materials that may harm human health and could find their way into drinking water. The featured presenter is Richard Mest, president of Master Water Conditioning Corporation and a member of WQA's Hall of Fame. You'll hear Richard define emerging contaminants, the risk they pose, and how water treatment professionals must approach their job of offering point-of-use and point-of-entry treatment solutions. Later, we'll have our WQA tip. It's all coming up on the Water Quality Association podcast.
Emerging contaminants, what are they? Sometimes chemicals that had not previously been detected are discovered in the water supply. These chemicals are known as contaminants of emerging concern or simply emerging contaminants. Emerging contaminants are important because the risk they pose to human health and the environment is not yet fully understood. Some that you might have heard about: pharmaceuticals, personal care products, endocrine disruptor compounds, are among the prime examples of emerging contaminants. And as you know, that 90% of oral drugs pass through the human body and end up in the water supply. We've had other things added to emerging contaminants too, and we're going to go through that list. Some of them being microplastics, manganese, and also the PFAS family of chemicals. Should I be concerned? With advances in testing and health research, experts are learning of new potential dangers in our drinking water. In many cases, the possible harms are not yet fully known. So as water treatment professionals, we analyze a lot of waters. And we're very accustomed to using measurements in grains per gallon or milligrams per liter, parts per million. And then we were introduced to parts per billion because analytical instruments could test finer particles, finer size contaminants. A part per million to a part per billion is 1,000 times different, to give you a perspective. We now test in the parts per trillion, which is 1,000 times smaller than a part per billion. And to give you an idea of a part per trillion, it's like finding a postage stamp on the ground in the great state of Texas. We're talking about things that are very, very, very small. And as analytical equipment continues to improve, knowing that water is the universal solvent and loves to consume contaminants, we're in a great profession, and you're going to see more contaminants emerge. Currently, we have over 90 contaminants that are regulated through the Safe Drinking Water Act. Microorganisms, which also includes turbidity, disinfection byproducts, disinfectants, inorganic contaminants, organic contaminants, radionuclides, and now we have the most recent PFAS class of chemicals. I wanted to share the journey. As I do a lot of outreach, I was hearing acronyms that just didn't make sense to me. So that really was the premise for me to create this presentation. I wanted to share what I learned, and what I learned was the emerging contaminant roadmap. This roadmap is critical for a water treatment professional. It's going to guide you into the next PFAS class of chemicals that will be promulgated to an MCL. It will give you documentation to help you make decisions on what products you should be looking at, what technologies are in that are going to be needed today and more so in the future. And it'll help train your team so they can help your consumer, be it a consumer in a home, a consumer in a factory, or a consumer in an industrial application. So there are multiple journeys we're going to take, and we're going to stop at each one of these. The first one is a CCL. It's a contaminant candidate list. There's a process that the EPA goes through where they create a list of contaminants that are really emerging contaminants of concern. From that list, they then vet a sub-list to monitor. So the UCMR is the EPA's process to actually determine the presence of those contaminants in the public water space. And that's the unregulated contaminant monitoring rule. From that, the process mandates that the EPA take a minimum of 5 contaminants that have been identified, analyze that data, and then consider promulgating a regulation for the contaminant to an MCL. Once an MCL is created, the next stop is enforcement and management of the MCL that the EPA relies on the states to do. Through the EPA regulation, through the Safe Drinking Water Act, there is a PNR, Public Notification Rule, where, as a press release stated, the public water system has to notify a constituent of a problem. And then lastly, through the legislation, once a year, the public water system has to provide a CCR, a Consumer Confidence Report, which is a snapshot of what that public water system has been providing. So this is the roadmap: CCL, UCMR, promulgation, enforcement, PNR, CCR. Out of the 5 CCLs, 1998 was the first, and that CCL1 had 60 candidates of contaminants on it. 2005, CCL2 had 51 candidates. 2008, CCL3 had 116. 2016, CCL4 had 109. 2021, CCL5 had 78. And we're currently developing the CCL6, and they're vetting that list now. And the assumption is it'll be sometime around 2026. The list typically includes classes of contaminants such as pesticides, disinfection byproducts, chemicals used in commerce, waterborne pathogens, pharmaceuticals, and biological toxins. That's right, 414 contaminants, and we're still going. Think about this. Emerging contaminants are about opportunity. Water loves to consume. It loves to consume contaminants. And we continue to add more contaminants to the potential for water to consume. Right now, we regulate over 90 with MCLs, but we've already looked at 414, and the list never ends. Now, lastly, on the emerging contaminant journey is CCR, Consumer Confidence Report. Once a year, the EPA mandates that every public water system do a snapshot of water analytes so consumers understand with a broad brushstroke what they've been seeing in concentration in their water supply. And here's the link to that. This is a really great site that you can get very specific to a region on. So understanding what the CCR is in your market area is huge. And you can find it by clicking here. And there's a map. So you can distill it down to the state, you can distill it down to the water system. So you find the name of the water system and you can download the information. If you're a constituent of that public water system, it gets sent to you. by email or USPS, but you also have access to it by coming to this website. Again, incredible tool to track emerging contaminants, to track what's actually in the water supply today. So far, what we shared was CCL, UCMR, promulgation, PNR, CCR. And the journey starts all over again every 5 years. Now, I just want to bring in the lead and copper rule because this is something that's near and dear to, I think, everyone's heart that's participating today and in the industry. And I don't want to spend a lot of time here, but I want you to focus on the year. EPA established the lead and copper rule in 1991. 1991. We created a level at 15 parts per billion, checking for corrosion control. And the idea was that we would solve the lead problem really, really quick. Lead, didn't we talk about that 32 years ago and now going on 33 years ago? And have we figured it out? I don't think so. The point of this is here. Let's have a level set and put contaminants like lead and the current class of emerging contaminants into perspective. Change can be slow. Look at emerging contaminants. The journey is fixed every 5 years, but what we do with that knowledge can take some time. Just like lead, we haven't solved it yet, and we've been with it for 32 years since the line was put in the sand. This is a marathon, not a sprint. So don't get disenchanted in today's world of PFAS, where this isn't going to happen right now with a regulation that's 5 years out for the largest public water systems to comply. So it's going to take time to get this down to the consumer level. The interest is there by all means. Emerging contaminants that then themselves, as well as emerging contaminants like PFAS that become an MCL, there's great interest. We need to talk about it because we have ways to solve that problem or reduce the contaminant for people. We need to talk about it. But understand, if you wait for regulation to kick in, it's going to be a marathon. It's our job to understand all the nuances of every contaminant and also what those contaminants do when they're in a soup of their peers. We also have to understand how those contaminants impact someone's health. Is it topical, meaning surface on my skin? Is it ingestion, meaning when I drink it? Is it inhalation? So when I aspirate the water with a garden hose nozzle or in the shower or even washing my hands. Most of these are regulated by an MCL or a maximum contaminant level goal. But as PFAS showed us that you can have a contaminant that gets so charged in the marketplace that we need to react ahead of maybe an MCL. As you journey into treating emerging contaminants, a detailed water analysis is critical. It identifies the problem or problems. It's an independent voice when you use a third-party certified lab. It's important that you understand that a consumer needs to see someone else's word for it, not just yours. And most of the time with emerging contaminants, you don't have the capability to do testing in the field to the concentrations that they're monitoring in parts per billion or parts per trillion. Emerging contaminants need you at the top of your game. Concentrate and get serious. Treatment system design, installation, and maintenance plans are critical for success. This isn't a device that you install and leave. This is a device that you install and you continue to nurture with your customer, be it a homeowner, be it a school, or be it a factory. It doesn't matter. When you're dealing with health concerns with emerging contaminants or primary contaminants that already have an MCL or MCLG, we need to make sure that we not only design it well and install it well by following all the pertinent codes, but maintaining it. If we don't maintain it, they don't get protection.
And that was a portion of a recent WQRF webinar on emerging contaminants presented by Richard Mest. You can watch the entire webinar at WQRF.org. You can also find additional resources on emerging contaminants, as well as a variety of research projects and a host of studies on the WQRF website, WQRF.org. Our WQA tip: you're invited to connect, inspire, and elevate at the 2024 Mid-Year Leadership Conference coming up September 17th through the 19th at a convenient Midwest location near Chicago's O'Hare Airport. Don't miss out on this collaborative, strategic conference for the water treatment industry. It won't be the same without you. Learn more and register at WQA.org/MYLC. Thanks for joining us for the Water Quality Association podcast, bringing you the latest news and insights from the association, our members, and outside experts to help you better serve your customers and grow your business. Learn more about water and water treatment at our consumer website, betterwatertoday.org, and learn more about professional certification, product certification, and how you can become a WQA member at WQA.org. Until next time, this is Wes Bleed. So long from the Water Quality Association.